Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the discourses on personality and competency. Now, more advanced case of interpersonal communication, more advanced case. We're looking at an interview. Interview is supposed to be one of the most organized interpersonal communication because it is formal. But this is a statement I'm doing inter alia because I mean to say, for the time being, it is right to consider interview as a very organized communication. A more organized case of communication is when there is a creative form that is coming out. A larger objective is served, and therefore, that communication which serves a larger objective is likely to be, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, uh, likely to be more organized. But we'll look at that and debate on is that the right theory, right philosophy. For a time being, we'll honor interview as an almost as a most organized communication. I'm sorry, as a most organized communication. And this is interpersonal viewing. Interview, we want to now retitle as interpersonal viewing. Both the parties are in clear understanding about the concept of personality, and therefore they are playing not a blind game. Not a blind game, I should remember. I hope I remember to talk about the blind games a little later when we talk about personality. Blind games. This is not a blind game. This is a clear cut vision of each other. They're all mature parties. There is a company called ZS Incorporated, and there is a position of a public relations manager. And the gentleman who is interviewing is a vice president operations of the company. He's Mr. Nicholas. He's Mr. Nicholas. So Mr. Nicholas begins a dialogue. Well, thanks, Mr. John, for your interest in our organization. We do keenly look forward to your effective contribution in making our company Detroit's most reputed companies among the senior citizens. Detroit's most reputed companies. Detroit's most reputed company among the senior citizens. But tell me, Mr. John, would you be comfortable with this assignment of image building through action? This assignment is slightly complex. It is image building through action. So, what are the traits that Mr. Nicholas has executed among the few major diplomatic optimistic gamesmen? Diplomatic optimistic gamesmanship. And I'd say Mr. John responds with what are traits? First is communication. I have always used a press campaign, but I suppose I can learn your technique from the scratch. So far as PR was done through campaigns, now it has to be done through action. I hope I will learn your technique from scratch. Mr. John is clearly trying to help Mr. Nicholas mind that he's inexperienced in this field, in this art. He's almost gullible. Mr. Nicholas responds, currently our public relations department is thinly manned and I'm going all my work with the help of some staff people. He's directly in charge of this particular thing, so he has some experience on what is right, what is wrong, many confusions too, because he's got expertise in quite another field, but he's asked to do this job. For the shortage of the right people to handle the desk, he's calculative, he's negotiator. bargainer. Mr. John responds, "You see, I'm a man of administrative skills. Since in my current employment I'm having executive and staff care people perform all the operations." He's frank. He says, "Look, you're asking me to do something. I don't have an experience. So this is not an experience-based interview." Hello, my HR friends. This is not an experience-based interview. Mr. Nicholas. Issues are slightly different. We believe in action and it should speak for itself. Mr. Nicholas is assertive, meaning you have not done it, but you will have to do it. Assertive. Mr. John responds, "All actions we do also need to be publicized so that everyone not directly connected with the actions are also kept well informed." So now he's trying to say, look, I have a publicity experience. All the actions have to be publicized. So the later part of this task, I know very well. He's communicative. He too is assertive. I like this. I like this. Take your time. Take your time. But you have your own field of expertise and you should stand your ground without a problem. You should. I like it. Mr. Nicholas. Mr. John, in our case, all beneficiaries of the planned social projects are primary customers who give business to us. All the beneficiaries of the planned social project, they're doing social projects, are the primary customers who also give business. So we might look at it as a welfare activity, but they are actually creating business prospects for us. Mr. Nicholas is saying we are very calculative, we are very strategic, we are business-like. Our social events do not mean that we distribute things without getting anything. It's a revenue generation technique. It's business, very hardcore business. Mr. John, but don't you think for that, those who are not connected with the action would become our future customers? Would also become our future customers. So he's trying to say, it's not that we are just trying to create one cycle. We are trying to open up another loop also. While doing this, can we not have our next customers coming from among those who are not connected? That's a market development exercise. He's assertive and he's a learner. In just 2 or 3, up and down volleys, he has understood what could be done. He's assertive, he's a learner, Mr. Nicholas. But you see, Mr. John, the short-term results are very critical and they are working on concentrated efforts with high budgets. The events are going to be very costly. So we have short-term budgets. Hence, it is more like a business development effort for us. He's very clear that we are not trying to spend our money and our time. We are doing it, we expect, as people eat away a philanthropy, they let out their check, a fairly big check. Mr. Nicholas, very definitive. Very definitive. That's very professional. There's nothing to be shy about. That's very definitive. Mr. John, oh, I see. That's a new knowledge for me. Mr. John says, oh, I see. That's a new knowledge for me. He is frank again. Mr. Nicholas, well, thank you, Mr. John. You can go back to the personal department for the next message. Diplomatic. He's not made his mind. Mr. John has not made his mind. That's a very adult approach. They're all hanging in the air. They're walking through the cloud of confusion. He has pressure of time. He doesn't have many people to talk about as far as this, in regard to this assignment. He has an enterprise. He's not just a corporate executive. He's got an enterprise in him. He probably has a freedom and he wants to use all his freedom to communicate how difficult the task is. He's not making it sound simple. And Mr. John is constantly telling him, look, I am new to the field. If you believe I can learn, if you think I can learn, then only I can perform. Otherwise, everything is Greek and Latin for me. So that's about two adults talking to each other. And two people being very selective in terms of number of traits. Now, the difference in the formal and informal communication is that many times in formal communication, the trait that you want to stick to, highlight, is one singular, at the most two. In informal communication, the number of traits that that you bombard with are going to be larger and larger, and especially in creative communication, they're going to be larger and larger and larger. So we'll have an interesting, you know, situations to fill this science with. See you again next time. Thank you for being with me. Take care.